Alright guys, welcome back to Mulligan Wargaming. This is the combat replay for the December 17th, 1941 turn. And right about now you're probably saying, December 17th? We already saw the 17th and we already saw the 18th. What happened to the 19th? And well, the answer to that is that there's been a little bit of drama and it's led to a mulligan. And I do want to explain a little bit about what happened so that the record's pretty clear, and hopefully I can do that without delving too much into the drama. But during the beginning of the replay for the last turn, I did mention about the work that we tried to do to get the December 17th turn to run properly, and how surprised I was when, after basically just one attempt at fixing it, my opponent said, let's go ahead and do the 18th, and handed me a complete set of orders for the 18th. I'm like, okay. Kind of had an idea what was going to happen. I would be pretty sure that he had a pretty good idea what would happen. And we went forward anyways, and then, you know, I handed him the result of the turn for the 18th. He saw what happened, and he basically said, we fix this, or I quit. And I guess for me what it really came down to was how unsatisfying it was to run them down and catch them out of fuel, and like they couldn't even fight back with their own cap. That was not a happy ending to that chapter of this game. And trying to avoid that from happening in the first place is why I was trying to be accommodating with fixing the 17th. He could have given me 10 different versions of that turn if that's what it took to get the carriers moving. And part of what's infuriating about this is, now that we're doing the 17th again, he did get the carriers to move for this. I have already watched this once. I usually talk about this for the first time while I'm watching it, or while I'm watching it for the first time. I've already seen this once. But he did get the carriers to move this time, and it was a simple setting switch. That was all it took. So why he couldn't do that before we moved on to the 18th, I simply do not understand. But anyways, I said I didn't want to get too much into the drama. But anyways, so I've agreed to a mulligan going back to the 17th to get those carriers unstuck. So then we can proceed to the 18th with the carriers in a position of not having lost a day to getting stuck. And we can go on from there. I demanded a little bit of a price, as with the Jochen Haydn versus Lodrick game, you know, when Lodrick gave Jochen a mulligan because of him losing the Lexington unexpectedly because of a bad setting. That also meant that Lodrick was going to get a mulligan, so I have that in my pocket. Hopefully I can just go this whole time without ever needing it. I'm only going to use it if it's something like a mistake. I'm not going to use it just because I don't like an outcome. And I really tried to impress on him the importance of, if something like this happens, it needs to be resolved that turn, not do the next turn and then try to go back in time, because this simply cannot happen again. But I guess I've said my piece at this point, so we're going forward. We're doing the 17th over again, so here we go. Starting over here with this night bombardment of Batangas. Got multiple hits on submarines here, so very good news for us. Great way to start off the day. Alright, here's the night bombing of Kwanton, as per the original turn. No difference there. Except I think he actually hit stuff in the original turn, and he didn't this time. Alright, taking some slight depth charge damage here, but we mostly get away. I'll just point out that that incident off Malaya, where we lost a destroyer, oh, it would have been this submarine. That was like a 1 in 100 shot that this submarine made in the original turn, and he did not make that 1 in 100 shot this time around, and instead it looks like he's taken some decent amount of damage. What was that, 2 hits? 3 hits. Damaging near misses, so nothing serious. Also, as I was talking about that, we saw the message that one of my battleships in the over by Rabaul went down, so as in the original turn, my battleships are burning to the waterline. Well, we're hearing ships sinking again now, but nothing telling me it's one of mine, so probably enemy ships going down at Batangas. Alright, got a sweep on Clark. Decent resistance by the enemy. I think I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward this. Alright, so we ended up with 5 P-40s and 4 P-30, or I'm sorry, 6 P-40s and 4 P-39 shot down to the cost of 2 zeros here. As usual, we're disregarding those numbers. I think that's actually a significant improvement. Oh, no, it was about the same in the original turn. Yeah, they didn't get 2 zeros originally, so they did a little bit better. But here's a major difference in how these turns ran. You may recall from the setup, I made a pretty big point of managing the distance and the altitudes that the strike package to Singapore was going to be at to make sure that the sweeps were going to arrive first, and they didn't, and we ended up taking some pretty substantial losses, including to our bombers, because we didn't clear out the enemy cap before those bombers started arriving. But in this version of the turn, there was no air coordination snafu that delayed the departure of the Oscars assigned to sweep duty. So, as intended, we now have Oscars over Singapore taking care of this large enemy fighter presence. Go ahead and skip. So that ended up being 1 Oscar and 5 of those AVG P-40s, aka H-81s. Just going to go ahead and skip this too, because the numbers I just gave you were actually for the combination of both of these sweeps, not just one of them. So again, that was 5-1. Alright, still got a little bit more going on at Clark. And we control the skies over Clark. As it should be. Just one P-40 defending Manila. And he's gone. No joy for the next sweep. Clear skies for the bombers. Overcast, not such bad weather. Get some decent hits on these guys. Nothing earth-shattering, but still an okay result. Sallies to Clark Air Base next. It looks like we're doing a decent amount of damage on the ground. Thunderstorms present, which is slowing us down a bit, but overall, not bad. Slowing down the enemy tank regiment, forcing them to take cover and go into combat mode. These are just guys we don't want in Hong Kong. Same with these guys, we're in that foot race, trying to cross the river first. Air base attack to try to prevent them from building up forts. We're used to seeing these by now. SB-3s get chased off. Not much else to say there. B-17s attacking Rebel as they did before, and as they did before, my Zeros are interfering. We will note that this time we haven't seen any airstrikes targeting my withdrawing amphibious ships. Probably has something to do with the carriers not being stuck there and continuing to launch airstrikes. So the airstrike on the Whippoorwill still happened. We did not have an enemy cap present this time that got through and shot down any Vals. Yeah, I'm not sure why that ended up different. But I like keeping my Vals. Yeah, so it said the Hiei, but we know that was the Mutsu. So I don't believe this is something that happened in the original turn. We have detected, presumably, an enemy transport squadron, yes. So there's a transport ship that just took a hit. I wish these Bettys would target the transports more and not the Dauntless. Dauntless really isn't that important. As you can see here, there's no report of enemy troop casualties, so this transport is already unloaded, with the possible exception of supplies, so this was not a big deal. But what is important is that it does confirm that there are enemy troop transport convoys arriving in Rangoon. Alright, raid on Batangas. Just as in the original turn, we are hitting submarines in port here. Well, 2 confirmed submarine sinkings. So, pretty close to the original on that. I think we might have had 2 sunk and 1 heavy damage, if memory serves. So, very similar outcome. Alright, now the bombers are arriving at Singapore, but instead of having something like 20 airplanes on cap, we see 5 at the moment. So we should brush these guys aside rather easily. It would be nice if the Zeros would go after the H-81s instead of the Buffaloes. Better matchup. So that air raid did not do a whole lot. Light rain and the Hex might be affecting the outcome a bit. And now the Nels. I believe these are set to damage and attack the port. Yes. So 2 hits on submarines, 3 hits on subs. So it was 3 different submarines that got hit, and 1 of them has heavy damage. Lost 1 Nel to flak. Wildcats doing their absolute best to try to preserve Wake. We know it's not going to be enough. More ships sinking, and they're not ours. Alright, taking care of this small weak unit outside Palto. Get an easy retreat there. Enemy bombards us at Wake, not that we really care. We do care about a bombardment at Rabaul, but it doesn't do anything, which is rather surprising, as weak as our troops are here. Take a bombardment in Hong Kong. So that's going to do it. We'll do an abbreviated post-turn since this is really similar to what happened before. Places where things were different, though, obviously, Malaya went hugely different. So if memory serves, we were looking at Singapore afterwards before, and there were like 70 fighters there again. We're like, oh my god, what are we going to do? And That buildup didn't take place in part because they took significant losses. And not only are they taking losses, we're getting through and we're damaging their facilities. We're blowing up planes on the ground. We are still going to have to pull these guys back. Yeah, I mean, that's just inevitable. Like, we know that number for fighters isn't going to be 3. It's not going to stay there. As before, our covering force is going to need to be split up a bit, and they're going to need to catch the amphibious relief forces that are on the way out. Got a few contacts over by Palembang, probably just ASW would be my guess, but we don't really know. So that's ASW, don't know who that is. And then 2 light cruisers, not sure who that is either. So, 2 ships. I don't know why we didn't get to attack these guys. They're obviously in range, both from Carrier Division 1 and from Truck. Well, maybe not Truck, because these lines aren't necessarily accurate. But we lost detection on the enemy carriers, so they started here. We know they moved 8, basically, so they're here. We basically know that. The question now is, what's their fuel status? We know they're pretty desperate for fuel. Were they able to rendezvous with their tankers here? I don't know, maybe. Maybe they need to get all the way to Port Moresby like they did in the original version of the turn. Who knows? The answer for us for now is really the same, you know. Carrier Division 1's going to continue to kind of come straight in, while Division 3 tries to get out in front of them in case they continue south. Just take a quick look at losses for today. Losses for us, it's relatively high for us, losing 15 planes, although it looks like almost all of these are like random ops losses. Kind of, so the flak loss here, so I don't even remember losing a Betty to flak, so that might have been somebody on patrol. Nels took some losses over Singapore, and then, you know, 4 zeros also, I guess, is significant, but not compared to what we brought down of theirs. So, enemy losses up at 30, so we doubled it, and, I mean, you can just see it. This is nearly all fighters. We just dominated them in the skies. We're being credited with not only the Whippoorwill, but 2 submarines being sunk. Definitely helps that we had large bombs hitting them. And then unfortunately for us, our 2 battleships, as in the original turn, burned to the waterline and were lost. So in terms of victory points, this is a major victory for the Allies, thanks to the loss of those ships. But we're going to keep on keeping on, and we should have a shot at the carriers. I mean, the carriers, it's really just going to depend on their fuel state. If they've already refueled, then they can step on the gas hard enough to evade Carrier Division 3. So that is what it is. So with that, we'll catch you at the next turn. Thanks for watching.